lights, it's nothing but art.
Two layers, okay. Sorry about that. I had to lay a little smackdown. Work stuff. People going over my helmet. And they don't get to do that. They gotta run shit by me first. Work shit. Hello, Sam. What's up? Sorry, I'm dealing with work stuff. People trying to give people on my team assignments without running it by me first. And it's messing up. It's messing with scheduling, and it's not okay. Working on some kind of idea that I was kicking around earlier today, but I only have a very loose concept, and I don't know exactly what it is or like what I want the gesture to be. I'm thinking a kind of like, my usual go-to is like some kind of a nature oriented something, right? And I'm thinking of some of the like pre-Raphaelite kinds of paintings, though this will be meant for a digital, really for the NFT realm. So I want her holding like some kind of a bowl of, like, I have some light animation in mind for the end result. Like nothing crazy. Like definitely light. I know I want to get some like fires burning. Probably 2 up front and then 2 in the back. Sam, how are you doing today? It's what, 10 o'clock for you over there? I was going to work on the pirate stuff, but I'm trying to get some stuff done for a couple of different marketplaces just so I can get them out, get them up there, and then have a little bit of breathing room. So I don't know if I want her holding it like that. And then what I was thinking I would animate is like this thing's filled with some kind of lightly luminescent liquid, right? Elixir of life or something, who knows. Yeah, so I'm working on what will be an NFT for one of 2 marketplaces, either Foundation or another one that I'm still waiting on the final verification on, so I'm not really going to talk about that yet because I don't like to really like divulge stuff until it's actually a thing. And so from the art side with the NFTs, and we'll just call it digital fine art, for lack of a better term, because I'm sure we're all tired of hearing NFT. I'm sick of it, and I'm like excited about doing them. But I try to think of it in more fine art terms. I used to want to do gallery work before I kind of realized that the stuff I really like to paint, galleries generally don't care about. So It's like, oh, well, maybe gallery stuff is not my thing. I like more narrative work. I like things that they would consider illustration, right? So, that's the shit I like to paint. That's the stuff I like to think about, stories, you know? And I think that's one of the things that I love about, like, woo! Shadow Walk, what's up? Thanks for the sub, dude. Welcome. Welcome. You're awesome. Thank you. Yeah, like one of the things I love about like the pre-Raphaelites and like namely that movement was and then, you know, just a hair later, the golden age of illustration in the US, right, was the narrative. You know, now the pre-Raphaelites generally were working with mythology, whereas illustrators, you know, Howard Pyle and Cornwell and Harvey Dunn and Wyeth and all those cats they would deal with, you know, literary fiction and things like that. Sometimes mythology, but so, you know, but I like that kind of narrative quality. I don't really want to do like straight up mythology illustrations, you know, or paintings, let's say. But I do like things that are somewhat rooted in some of that. So that's where that's kind of what I'm thinking of. Now this could either be, she could either be some kind of a deity, you know, like a nature deity, or just maybe someone doing more of a nature ritual. Damn pagans. Something like that. And I don't know exactly, but what I'm trying to do on my end with all the, you know, crypto art and stuff is I still want to think about it as I would any kind of like fine art or gallery work, you know, like you're never going to see some lame ass rendition of like a Bitcoin symbol in in my crypto art because I hate that shit. And I also I think it's weird that so many people use Bitcoin symbols because I don't think anyone uses Bitcoin with crypto art. So, like, you guys should maybe look into what it is you're trying to comment on before you try and be clever. You just end up looking kind of stupid. But anyway, so you know, I'm thinking like kind of along those lines, or like John William Waterhouse, you know. That's sort of who I'm thinking of with this. I know I think it was Waterhouse that had done one, right? Where she's like lifting that bowl of water or something. And I forget who it's supposed to be. I can picture the painting, but I can't remember the title of it. So I'm just sort of trying to concept this thing and get some kind of clear idea of where I'm going with it. What I'm thinking of is whatever this luminescent fluid is. Just sounds so non-TOS friendly when I say that, but whatever this is, I think it would be fun to do slight animation of like little drops, right? Little droplets, and then where it hits, you'll just have a little like plant sort of sprout up and then go back down. So that's one of the things, like when we're thinking of digital fine art, obviously I think one of the things we want to do is, at least my thinking is, that you do what maybe something only digital can do, right? Because otherwise it's kind of like, well, if you're only doing something because you can't do it, because you don't have the skills to do it analog, I don't know if, that's the best reason to to do it. Or like for me, I'm like, well, is that an artist that I would want to collect? Where literally it's just using digital as a crutch. Now, I'm better at painting digitally than I am traditionally. Give me enough time and I could get there traditionally, but but beyond that, I want the whatever the image is, I want that to be doing something that is unique to the medium, right? Because that's to me where this stuff becomes really kind of important for the art world moving forward, is embracing this as a medium and hopefully embracing its strengths, right? Whatever those are, and one of those strengths is motion, right? Being able to because you can't sell animated oil paintings without a digital aspect at this point. Is it Circe? Is that the one? Let's see. Yeah, let's see. So there are. Yeah, it's the Circe Invidiosa. Because I also love Circe offering the cup. Like, that one's so fucking cool. Here we can link. Oh, they're both so awesome. Where's my keyboard? There's my keyboard. So there's this one, which I absolutely love, and this one. Which I also absolutely love. I love both of them. I think they're amazing. That second one, man, that throne, the way he did that, like bronze, those bronze lions, oh, it's so good. So good. And you know me, I love me some sheer cloth painting, so I can dig it. I forget the name of the model that he used, but you can actually look her up. There's a particular model that he would use, and it's pretty cool to see. Like, there are actually photographs of her, and it's kind of fun to see that all these paintings that we've looked at. Which one, Sam? The one of her offering the cup, or the one of her pouring the bowl? They're both Waterhouse, is why I ask. Because then the other thing, the other way I was considering is her lifting. Let's do this. Let's do this. Best to work non-destructively at this point, right? So, like, this is kind of just generating ideas. Because I also love the idea of her, like, lifting something up. And I love that, like, shallow bowl that Waterhouse used. Even though this thing would be heavy as fuck. But whatever, we're just gonna say she's like a nature deity. She can lift anything. Problem solved. Boom. So I do like that idea too. In which case we would need to make her a little smaller. Yeah, I love both of them. Like I say, that throne in the second one, I absolutely love the rendering of that. But yeah, I always loved that first one of her pouring the whatever the hell it is. I actually don't know the story of Cersei outside of Game of Thrones. I'm also leaning towards some of that sheer cloth, so I'll have to be careful about how I paint that if I do that on stream. I don't know if we'll get that far, but we could always put, little placeholder pasties. Right? Just put those on a layer on top, and then you don't have to worry about it. You just censor it. I don't know why I'm a fan of nature beings having wild hair, though I'm thinking of her hair being more like, I want it to kind of shimmer, like be silvery, like moonlight, right? And then have these fires, and so one of the things I'd want to animate are the fires. I think that'd be really cool. Just give them some light animation. It doesn't need to be crazy. Just do something that could be like a 20-second loop or something like that. Or like the video would be 20 seconds, and maybe I would just do a 10-second loop for the fire. And then just have little kind of drips every now and then, just like a few of them. And I just think it could be something that would give it a bit more depth and life, The only thing is, I have not at all thought about what the hell kind of environment I would do. It's like I thought about the figure and then the fire as some kind of element in the image. I mean, I feel like it has to be a natural setting of some kind. It just only makes sense for this. But I don't know what. And for the vibe that I want, I think definitely nighttime. Yeah. I could see that. Your hair is your crown, right? I mean, it would be nice to get her like up on a hill or something. maybe we could even allude to, you know, get a fire kind of back here and then smaller ones back here. Something, just, and I'd get these like all way up in the foreground and rack focused out, you know, so that it doesn't feel like she's about to catch on fire or anything. We don't want that. Yeah, and I don't know, it's interesting looking at the kind of digital market right now, the digital fine art and all that stuff. And, I mean, it's, in a sense, it's nothing new from what has kind of always gone on in the fine art world. I think to some people, maybe it's new, but for any of us that have sort of dabbled in the gallery scene, it's like, okay, same shit, like very exclusive, and you're gonna see a lot of like just crap going up and selling for a lot of money because it's still new, right? So people are like, oh, this person's on the forefront, and so maybe that gives it value, right? Because the artist is kind of is a pioneer, good or not, it doesn't matter. Like, there's a lot of people are like, oh, Picasso sucked, and you can fall on either side of that. It doesn't really matter. The point is, he was a very important person historically as far as art was concerned, right? I can't think of another artist where governments thought he was trying to overthrow them, where governments thought an artist was trying to overthrow them simply through their art, and were fearful and angry about it. There are artists that thought they could, but the governments didn't give a shit. So in that regard, like, Picasso is a very, very important figure historically, and it doesn't matter whether we like his art or not, right? So you get anyone that's kind of pioneering a new field, and it's not always about their skills, but at a certain point, the field does become either about skill or context/concept, right? So that's kind of them's the logistics of it. Yeah, I think that kind of, a lot of us illustrators, Sam, I think we all kind of fall in that boat where it's like, we don't care about like his blue period or, any of the Cubist stuff, even though I can appreciate that he was just wanting to do something different. That's cool. But we don't really care about it at this point. But his earlier stuff, where he just like legit was showing, badass painting skills and whatnot. Yeah. And it's not like, at this point, it's not like they're super amazing until you realize like how young he was when he was doing that stuff, right? That's kind of what makes them amazing. There are any number of painters that are better. But they weren't necessarily doing that stuff at the same age. All right, I kind of like her lifting this bowl up. I'll have to figure that out. I do kind of like that motion. Let's look a bit. I want to make sure that it's different enough from that Waterhouse one. I mean, it will be at the end. The environment is nothing like that. There's not going to be some weird sea creature, water creature in there. I really need to look up what the story of Circe is because I have no idea, but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. Right. Yeah, Warhol, man. It's hard. It's hard for me sometimes to just be like, completely like fuck that guy, because I get it in a way. I see what he was doing. Plus, I know a couple people that actually knew him. Like a couple of my teachers actually knew him. One of which I think um, was actually, I want to say he was friends with him. I think he might have a sketch or two of Warhol's. But Warhol is one of those, right? I think he wanted to be a fashion designer or something, or a fashion illustrator, but he just kind of wasn't good enough. Oh, well then, shit, that works. I could. Well, damn, that works even more. I'm gonna have to read up on her, because I could potentially just title this Cersei. But if I do, then I feel like, then I'm just doing my own version of a Waterhouse. And maybe. I mean, whatever. She'll end up looking different. Was Cersei a redhead? Or was it simply that Waterhouse just liked using that one model who was a redhead? I'm not opposed to painting redheads, obviously, but girlfriend would be very disappointed if I was. But for this particular one, I wasn't actually thinking red hair. Though if Cersei was supposed to have red hair or bronze hair or something, I might consider it. I might. That would change the composition I have in mind a lot. Shit. I have no idea for the environment. Okay. Cool. Well, then I might consider that. Could be kind of fun, actually, with the fire, sort of like if her hair is catching that light, get a little bit of rim light and then just kind of light it up a bit. Make her hair look almost like flame. That could be fun. Sometimes, though, I feel a little weird going into mythologies that I don't necessarily have a connection to. Like, it's almost just kind of like, oh, this is a cool story. And I'm like, but mythology is very, like, sacred to some people, and maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. Could be fun to just get some kind of tall trees or something in here. I took this cool picture. Might be able to find it real quick and might be able to put it up on the Discord. Probably won't look. It doesn't look that cool in the photo. I took the photo as just a reminder. Yeah, so whatever. We had gone on a little hike and there were just these cool, like, thin. I don't actually know what kind of trees they are. I'll have to look it up. But they're just these tall, really thin, kind of sparse trees, and I just really liked the look of them. So I might do something like that. Though I'd have to figure out a way to make that read properly. I don't know that I'd want to get something right up front, but maybe that could give it a fun kind of contained, really put her in like the middle of something, you know. But I'd have to get something, maybe something else up front, but it doesn't have to be completely going off the top like that. But something like that could be kind of fun. Although we might have to widen the format. Let me look. What was the wider? 6 by 8. So what is that? That's a 3 by 4. 1500. So 4500, I guess. That might actually work a little better if we do this, I think. It gives us just a little more breathing room to play with, right? So if we have these fires out to the side, then that allows us to move them over a little bit somewhere. A little more room to get some other trees back here. I think that feels a little better. Yeah, so the only difference I see with that is that generally they were commissioned, right? So usually the person they were commissioned by had a very strong connection to that stuff. So they weren't usually just like of their own accord saying, you know what, I'm gonna paint some Bible pictures today, so I don't know. And I'm not opposed to it, because obviously, like, you're allowed to have connection with mythology, and I've always kind of connected with it on some level. I've always loved it, even though I loved it more as a story. But is also like, it was more important than just that, right? Storytelling at a certain point was the only form of education for anyone who wasn't an aristocrat, right? So it had a very important place for sure. And I always loved it, not just for that, but also just like the types of stories it told, these, whether they were metaphor or analogy for something or other, right? Or whether people believe that stuff actually happened. It doesn't really matter. I like the idea that maybe once there was a world where that stuff could have happened, right? So I do like... I'm just trying to think of like what kind of color palette I might do on something like this. And like, do I want it dark with like where these, you know, light sources could really pop? Some kind of like a more of a low-hanging sun sort of vibe, maybe. But I'd want to be careful that it didn't like overpower the fire, right? Maybe. Actually, let's do. Technically, that would be too bright. The fire will be fun just because of the kind of underlighting, I think. That's always a kind of a fun place to play with. Fun place to play in. Ah, thanks, Neutron. Thank you. Yeah, I don't usually like full-on concept on stream, but I gotta kind of double up on stuff right now, or else I won't have time for anything. And it was either concept on stream or not stream, and I really didn't feel like canceling my stream because I've done that too often of late. And it makes me sad. We don't like that. Always gotta really watch where those light values go, right? Like how bright are we going and where do we want the focal point to be? Obviously we can, you know, play with this kind of stuff, right? I know. It's tough when I'm working full time. You know, I mean, doing art full time for work and then trying to get stuff done outside of work too. Trying to stay on my game. Right? A bit of that. So this is like super rough color comp. Nothing anywhere here is final, right? Let's not go toxic green either. Maybe we play with a little bit of like bluish, whatever that is. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. And we could also play with like kind of a double like rim light from whatever it is behind her, low hanging sun or something, so in which case probably be a little bit warmer, but that sky back there is pretty cool, so I don't want to be like, here's a random warm rim light from that cool light back there. Don't make no sense, does it? But as it gets closer to where the fire is and stuff, maybe we could warm it up a little bit, right? That could be fun. Yeah, Neutron, I would recommend Procreate. Highly. It's a great app. I prefer it to Photoshop by like a long way. I just really want them to want Apple to beef up the iPad Pro so that I can actually work on like finished size stuff for work, right? Because at work we use very high resolution because it's all for print. So I would like it if I could do stuff like finished pieces for work on the iPad. I would be so much happier. But some of the sizes we use, it just flat out won't even create the file because it's too big. So, and thank you, Shadow Walk. And I will do my best to not bail on streams so much, but sometimes life just has other plans. It was also like I wasn't. Some stuff started happening like on the in terms of onboarding onto some of these digital art marketplaces that happened sooner or faster than I anticipated, simply through sheer luck. So that kind of like threw everything for a loop. I don't want to light up the trees, but they should get any of the ones closer to the fire should get some warm light on them. We can get into the pain in the ass rim lighting on the trees later. Right, those trees back there that'll be catching the rims from the backlight. That'll be fun. And I am not one to shortcut rim lighting. Oh my god, one of my pet peeves is when I see people just like, if you have a shape then they duplicate the shape, and the one behind it, they just lighten it and then offset it, and that's their rim lighting. And I'm like, dude, you just flatten the fuck out of everything. Like, rim lighting should describe the form and give it volume. You know, if all you do is like basically this, right? Come on, that just flattens it out like crazy. So we don't want to do that. Can't shortcut that shit. It's gotta go in and out and thick to thin based on the form that it's catching, and yeah. Do it right or don't do it at all. Damn it. It's pretty fun. She seems a little elongated, so I'll definitely have to like finesse her proportions and stuff. Oh, I'm. It is actually. It's the soundtrack for Ori and the Blind Forest. Right, Shadowwalk? Exactly. Look at the little whiskey me in the corner. Right? That's how you make stickers. And what I'm considering doing is actually starting this, like if this is what I decide on, I'm considering actually starting it as a pencil piece, only because I love the natural texture that comes along with that, and I use the hell out of that when I'm painting, you know. Especially for something like this, where I think that texture would do a lot for me. Ooh, that'll be fun. Like, if we look at... Come on. No. Let's just get in close on this, right? If we were to... get a really nice little complementary color palette going here, right? Top lit by our nice glowing, our luminescent glowiness, and then get some... Whoa. We'll have to get core shadows in there, right? So that we get some separation between the planes, but a lot of fun like potential in the lighting that we could play with. We would basically get some kind of a desat core shadow here. Plus, I'd have to decide what's the key light source, right? Do I want, how bright is the luminescence on from this bowl? Because you could theoretically have both of them be equally bright, but you'd lose a lot of chance to describe form that way. So probably not the best way to go. Better to decide like, okay, one of these is going to be brighter than the other, and I'm gonna go with the bowl at least for her face because her face is so close to it that I think we can get away with it looking okay, right? So that's where best to first start with our. I don't actually really want her smiling. I want her a little more solemn, reverent, right? She could be smiling, but I want her a little more serious than that. I need some heat in her hair, because otherwise we're getting all the same tones in here, right? So where are we? Cool. Okay, so if we, where are you at? Come on. Not at all like finalized features or anything, just kicking around ideas. Right. So then if we did bring in, let's go a little more red rather than orange on the underlighting, which we don't want to be as bright as anything in the lights, right? But there's a lot that we can do just with saturation too. Like it doesn't have to really be bright. We don't want to mess with our value grouping too much, since simplified value grouping is like everything. But I think that could be cool. We'll just have to make sure that that hair really reads. It could be fun. I'm not whoa, where did we get that from? I'm not totally sold on her scale. I feel like it's a little uncomfortable on top and bottom, so I would probably scale her down. I think. I might even scale most of this down when I think about it. Reason being, it needs a little more breathing room, I think. I think. We don't have to get super picky with all of this stuff, but yeah, I think it was getting a little claustrophobic, you know, little tight in there before, and I feel like this will, I don't know, this tells a little more of a story, right? And that's kind of what that's what I'm going for. Let's speak definitively here. Smudge tool is our friend. Whee! Now I'm not totally sold on what's happening back behind her right now. It's a little kind of just mushy and weird, and I don't really know what it is, what it's supposed to be. One thing we could do that I'm usually a fan of, not gonna lie, would be like some kind of mountains or something back there, you know, for the horizon line. And there's a chance for some like epicness back there too, if we were to like allude to, you know, some towering peak or something, like that could be kind of cool. Or maybe it's like this ritual is being done at a very specific time where the sun is rising or setting between two specific peaks, right? We could do something like that where we get to 2 mountains back here, and then get our sun down there. I don't mind the sunrise idea, just because I like the kind of greenish light that you get at sunrise, or like just before sunrise. You get this nice kind of like pearl green happening, which is kind of fun. And I think maybe would offset the fires nicely, whereas sunset you're generally going to get more golden light happening. Not always. You know, if it's the right kind of cloudiness, you might get some of that greenish, but generally it tends to warm up at sunset. Mountains are like trickier but simpler than you think. Yeah, there is a simplicity to them where you just kind of need to break it down to the light side and the shadow side. The only thing with Northern Lights is that they would compete too much with our already glowing elements, you know? And they would kind of mess with our triangular composition here if I were to get them dancing around. Plus, I'm actually thinking of this more as a cloud cover. So I don't think we would see the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. Let's see, where are we at here? So if we do our little digital trickery, why not? That's the funny thing. Like if I'm doing something where I'm like painting it as, you know, reference to do an oil painting from or something, then I don't use like any digital tricks except to maybe shift color palettes around. But if I'm doing something to purely be a digital painting, then I'm like, yeah, use it, dude. Make it digital. You know, because otherwise, what's the point? Let's do this just so we can change this stuff a little easier if we want. Right. We get wood, and we'll get like stuff on the ground, leaves, and obviously we don't want a shit ton of dried leaves because otherwise it's just like fire hazard. And I don't think she's trying to start a forest fire or anything with our spindly little forest. Is it Saturn that has... It's not Aurora Borealis. They have another name for it. And I think they're like all red and shit. Look like something that you'd seeing like a hellscape or something. But it's so cool. Right, because aren't they called something else when they're in the at the southern pole? There's another name for them. I'm liking where this is going. It's fun. By the way, I ended up breaking down and getting a new iPad, even though the new one I think is supposed to come out at the end of next month, but I could not work on my other one anymore. With that touch function going out in like the center, I don't know, 5 square inches of the screen, right? I couldn't pinch to zoom or do my color picker or any of that. I had to use the edge of the screen, and I was just like, nope. Nope. I can't do this. I need to be able to fucking get shit done quick. It's pretty fun, I think. And I would, I'd definitely like design these mountains and give them some real character, not just boring ass triangles. I want these things to look significant, So you could like, as you get into these, could get some smaller mountains in front. Into that stuff. Well, what sucks is that they pushed it, right? Originally, everything was pointing to the Apple event being on the 23rd of this month. And then usually they announce, the iPad, and then it goes on sale the next day. So I was stoked, and then everyone was like, "Oh, never mind, it's going to be next month." Hey, thanks for hanging out, Neutron. I appreciate it. I should be back Thursday night, just FYI, same time, 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Assuming work doesn't completely take over, but I am very much planning on being back Thursday. I just have like 3 deadlines on 3 different illustrations at work this week, so it's a little hectic. But here's the thing, Shadow Walk. If they stay true to the specs that everyone's projecting for that new iPad, not gonna lie, girlfriend will get this brand new iPad, and I'm gonna get that one, because, like I said, if they make it powerful enough for me to be able to work on finished stuff at work on it, like totally worth it to me, and it pays for itself at that point. Granted, if it's that powerful, I'm gonna make work get me one, but I'll still get my own. But I'm gonna make work get me one because I'm not gonna put that much mileage on my own machinery. Not when you're on salary. It defeats the purpose. That's some freelance shit, right? Artest, what's up, dude? How's it going? And Viscera, I don't think I said hi. Welcome, Viscera. And hello. I was spouting all kinds of nonsense earlier. Who knows? It's interesting to me. It's always interesting because fire is usually a lot darker than we think, right? Unless we're thinking in terms of camera exposure, and then that's a little different. But like, it's always weird. Well, Martest, funny story. She was originally gonna have like silvery hair, like moonlight. But then it was just looking so much like Cersei from like the Waterhouse paintings, and apparently she is usually depicted as a redhead, so we're just running with it. And oddly enough, I don't think I've actually painted a redhead in a while. With the exception of one I painted for work last week. But the character I was referencing was a redhead, so it wasn't my choice. Well, it was kind of my choice. I had the choice of several characters, and I chose the redhead, so I'm lying. It was my choice, 100%. I did it to myself. I'm okay with that. Whee! Giant, those are giant sparks. We don't want super giant sparks. I don't even know why I'm putting sparks in here right now. It is the silliest thing to do at this stage in the game, but just playing with... This is all just visual notes, right? Like, that's all this stuff is. But I have to bear in mind that if I do want to add any kind of movement to this stuff, these kinds of things will have to get animated. So I gotta keep that in mind. But that's fine, because it's literally just be the fire, the sparks, droplets, right, coming from this luminescent stuff going down, dropping on the ground. It's actually going to be a bit of animation. And then the little plants springing up. Happy little plants. Right? But like little. And not glowing. Little plants, you know? Little kind of... But they'll kind of like curl up and then go back down, right? I want it to be this kind of constant like movement. Right? And then, of course, we'll get, like, all kinds of dead leaves and dried leaves and, you know, foresty stuff. That kind of shit. So there will be some things to animate, but it'll be cool. It'll be cool. I think it'll be subtle enough that it won't be distracting. It'll just feel like a nice sort of zen place to be. That's my goal. That's my hope. And with a little help from our Ori and the Blind Forest soundtrack, you know, we're getting there. A little bit of light on some of these things. I like where it's going. I do think I'm probably gonna do a pencil version first. Simply because, like, if we look at, are we going to go to the gallery? If we look at, like, the texture in this, you know, that's kind of naturally in there. You know, you have to work really hard to get that kind of texture. With straight up digital, right? So like this is just a raw pencil sketch, right? That's just the raw scan. No levels or anything, and it just got such great texture that I can use. And it does a lot of description for me where I don't necessarily have to sit there and fiddle with a bunch of painting to make it look cool, right? I don't know if I have... I mean, technically she's all metal, right? They're not... I don't think I'll get flagged on the TOS shit if I... Right? She's not actually, like, nude, but we'll just zoom past that. So, like, I use the hell out of pencil texture for that. But it just works so well. And it just makes my job so much easier. I know, Shadow Walk. I might shoot this one when I draw it. We'll see. But yeah, I love the texture that happens. So that's why I'm thinking I might approach her that way first, especially for the natural setting. I feel like that'll be very helpful. But there's nothing wrong with, like, working out details this way, because one thing I can do is I could always work out some of the details and then print this out and essentially trace it out and use it as my rough, right? So I don't have to redraw the rough or anything like that. So I might do something like that. How many layers do we have available to us? Oh, we have 12 more layers. Shit. We can go for days. Now, the only reason I was wondering is because I can start to work out the drawing, you know, or at least like the kind of rough for the drawing here, right? Don't usually like to use straight up black for that. let's do this stuff first. Now, normally, I would want to have at least some clear idea of the facial features for her. And I don't really have an idea for that. And I hate to just go on automatic with that, because then I know exactly where it'll go if I do that. And nothing wrong with it. I just, with something like this, I would like her to at least look like she could be somebody. You know, definitely don't want to just give her like a generic face. Right now, she has a fairly generic face. That looks a bit more, maybe more cartoony than I want. And at the same time, I'm not trying to like trick anyone into thinking it's like real or anything like that. So if I was going to do that, I would use photo reference for sure. So maybe we can kind of just play around with something. I do like her hair being like wrapped up somehow. I'd have to really figure this out, or at least somewhat figure it out, you know, with like get some leaves and, you know, my usual leaves and flowers kind of deal. Just kind of makes sense for her, I think. But I don't know. I always think of those, some of those pre-Raphaelite faces, and then like the Arthur Rackham faces and stuff. Whenever I think of anything that, like, anyone that's related in any way to like nymph and fairy stories. And I have these like very clear images in my head of what fairy faces look like. Although if I was put to it, I would definitely design a variety. But We'll see. We can always paint a little bit back and forth and push and pull some features, but I think I probably will later tonight or tomorrow just pull some reference of faces I like, you know? Although realistically, I could probably, I know I have a bunch already on Pinterest, because that's what Pinterest is good for. Thanks. Thank you, Shadow Walk. Where are my boards? My boards. There are a lot of just cool faces out there, you know? Astrid Frisbee looks pretty rad. It's always like a toss-up for me. Do I want them to look softer or do I want them to look more severe? You know? Do I want them to look otherworldly? In her case, that could work because she is otherworldly. And there are some amazing faces out there. Come back, come back. Let's see. Let's see. I can... Hang on. Let me find... Astrid. Let's see if we can find... And I don't want it to... I don't want to, like, straight up base it on somebody, because I think that's a little silly too, unless I shoot the photos. But do you guys remember in... What was that awful... Which Pirates movie was it that had the mermaids? The movie was terrible, but the mermaids were awesome, and Astrid Frisbee was one of them, and she was the witch in King Arthur, and she just has such a cool face that is like both soft and severe all at once, and I think she could be kind of cool. Yes, she is usually my reference here. And I mean, the lighting isn't great, but it shows the structure of her face, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I'm not opposed to that. You know, and she looks like a little forest creature. So it kind of works. Right? She looks like she's just missing pointed ears and little wings, right? Like she could be kind of fun. And she was so cool looking in King Arthur. Man, all like witched out. She looked rad. Was she supposed to be in? Was she supposed to be Guinevere in there? I don't remember. I just remember her as the witch, and she was just awesome looking. Here. I don't remember. I don't know if I saw the newer Clash of the Titans, honestly. Well, that's a shitty link. Why didn't that link? Come on, link. Also, will this one work? Or is it just gonna give me another? I feel like yeah, damn it. I feel like the commas are throwing it off for some reason. Whatever. She looks all crazy and fucked up. Anyway, we could do something along those lines. Brush them out. Perhaps you have to get the eye tilt and everything in there, or it just won't look right. Right, those cheekbones. When I saw her, I was like, dude, if I could, I would cast her as my character Dakota, because she has that kind of jawline. I felt like she would be a good one for that. She'd have to get super cut, though. Because Dakota's all ex special ops, basically. Oops. And of course I'll have to figure out exactly what she's wearing. I have no idea. Though I always like all my implied detail that makes it look like they're wearing all kinds of craziness when there's not actually that much going on. Makes my life a lot easier. But I'm trying to decide, do I want her to wear any kind of jewelry? You know, I mean, the stuff is super fun to put in, and I like being able to play with like the metallic surfaces amidst all the natural surfaces. And I'll have to figure out how her hair is tied up, because I have no idea right now, but it doesn't matter yet. Right? I mean, it essentially almost could be. But then I was also toying with the idea of having more like kind of ragged hems and, you know, some layers going on in places, which I think could be fun. And so me. Right? If I had my way, everything would be like All Saints circa 2009, 2010. When they were cool before they fucking sold out. Literally went public, got a bunch of shareholders they had to please, got rid of their design team and hired all new designers, and then everything they put out was just bland after that. Whereas before, dude, everything they did was awesome. It was like, it was harder for me to decide what not to get than it was to decide what I wanted to get. And it was great because you just wait for the end of the season and then it was all 50% off. It's like, fuck yeah. Because otherwise, I'm not paying $60 for a damn t-shirt, even though it's a super dope t-shirt. It's still a t-shirt. But I gotta say, no one's done anything like that old All Saints stuff ever since. Which is too bad because to me, they were pretty timeless. Because they weren't all like, they weren't billboards, right? You weren't walking around with a giant fucking All Saints symbol or anything. Or if you were, it was an awesome looking like distressed ram skull. So who cares? Right? Ram skulls are awesome. What are you gonna do? Okay, she's looking a little like her body's looking a little too nude. nubile for me. Which is a funny thing to say, because tiny girlfriend is very tiny. Little 5'4", 100 pounds. But you know what? I can't make everything look like her. And we might really like nature her out and give her some hips. Right? I just feel like that makes them feel more like rooted in the earth. You know? I have the tendency to balance out the shoulders and the hips, or sometimes err on the side of, being a little more top heavy. So it's nice sometimes to just switch it up where I can. Sure would help if I knew what she was going to wear so I didn't have to avoid drawing stuff. Right? But I don't know if I want something that's going to go like all the way up to the neck. And then maybe kind of like drape in some way, but I'm not sure. Right? And then like I say, play with some different layers and some kind of ragged hems and something that feels kind of natural, almost like it was made from the forest in some way. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking. So we may end up like kind of even almost covering up her form a bit, which is fine. That's okay. Doesn't all gotta be super sexy, right? Kind of takes the novelty out of it. Fair enough, Shadowwalk. Fair enough. Yeah, it's funny sometimes even as I'm painting, I end up having to like use that liquefy tool because things will start to like narrow up on me if I'm not very conscious of it. Kind of funny. We'll keep her on her own layer. And some of this stuff, like I'm more than comfortable figuring out with the pencils, because there are kind of marks and things that the pencil naturally will make that are not as easy, but they like as easy if I'm doing digital, right? They're not as easy. But then they lend themselves really well to certain types of either materials or forms. So some of this stuff I don't mind kind of leaving for that. I'm not trying to like detail the shit out of everything right now. But I think we might have to do some little spindly jewelry, almost like filigree, Because why not? Almost make it feel like gold or bronze or silver vines or something, you know? Be kind of cool. Wrapped around her in some way. I think that'd be fun. So she felt elongated before, and now she looks maybe not tall enough. Because I made her head bigger, so we gotta make her. I mean, there's nothing wrong with her not looking tall, mind you. There's nothing wrong with that. We do tend to get rather caught up. I can't tell you how many times I've had people be like, her proportions aren't right. And I'm just like, it depends on what proportions you're going for. Not everyone is like 7 heads tall, right? So it is a good idea not to just say, oh, everyone has to be these kinds of proportions, and if they're not, they're wrong. Like, no, you can look around and there are people with all kinds of proportions. And it's usually a good idea to kind of play with those and mess around and see what we can get, you know? Yeah, I agree, Shadowwalk. I feel like for our purposes with this image, I feel like her feeling taller just feels right, you know? It's just, that's one of those things where you just want to make sure you're doing it consciously, right? We don't want to be one of those people saying, she's wrong if she doesn't look exactly like this. Because those people can suck it. But I still might play with the sheer kind of material that Waterhouse did. Those artists, we look back at those classical paintings and stuff, and we want to put some kind of like, you know, importance on like everything they did. At the end of the day, I'm pretty sure they just wanted to paint naked girls. Like, I've seen some paintings where I was like, dude, there is no other reason for what they did here. There's no other reason. I'm pretty sure they just tried to think of a theme that would allow them to just paint some like topless girl. And that's fine. I'm the last person that'll complain about that, but it's just kind of funny when, you know, people want to get up in arms about it now, thinking that back in the day there was a reason for everything. And it's like, yeah, there was. And the reason was that that's what they felt like painting. Come on, we're artists. We understand that. Let's see if she feels right. She's feeling pretty good. Yeah, just getting those little kind of accents, you know, tend to go a long way. describing form. You know what? Let's man, I have really come to love Liquify, I have to say. I used to be such a purist. It wasn't so much a purist. It was partly that it's like, look, I need as much mileage as I can get, so I'm not going to use some of these shortcuts. If I want to change something, I'm going to redraw it. You know? And it's helpful. It is. It's helpful to like keep tackling things and re-tackling them, right? I remember when I was in animation school, you know, when we were doing computer animation, and we'd spend like, you know, we'd have maybe a 3-hour class or something, and we'd spend like 2 hours on some assignment, some animation assignment. And then at the end of the 2 hours, the teacher would be like, okay, now delete all your keyframes. You know? We're like, what? And be like, yep, delete all your keyframes and do it again. And we'd do it again, and we would do it in half the time. You know? And that repetition was so helpful in understanding what it was we were trying to accomplish, right? And it helped us to kind of like start to be able to plan ahead and later on plan around things that maybe we'd never done before, but because we had a better understanding of the overall process, we were able to tackle that stuff and not freak out too much. And also, because computers were really shitty at the time, it also made it a lot more tolerable when your computer decided to take a crap on you and you lose all your work, right? All of a sudden, it wasn't always as big of a deal. Sometimes it was a really big deal. Oh, I had one classmate that, I mean, we were all rendering our final assignments, and his computer took a shit on him, and he lost everything. Everything. This thing he had worked the entire semester on was just gone. Whoa. I mean, the teachers luckily had like kept up on what he was doing, and they cut him a bit of a break, but honestly, like they also couldn't just be like, cool, well, you get an A or anything like that. So he actually had to kind of like make up some work, I think, over the summer or something. It wasn't like crazy, but they're like, we need you to do something. Like you have to turn in something. You know, so, but still, ugh. Yeah, I think Shadow Walk because, you know, because the horizon line didn't change, right? The horizon line is basically here. Right? We're not going to keep this line, but that's essentially where I'm putting the horizon line. And so when she was like lower down, essentially closer to the horizon line, right? It just makes her feel smaller. Whereas if I can get her up above, it helps. And I may still... Because if... Yeah, I feel like her feet would be actually down here. Those are the proportions she feels like, so we gotta do a bit more. But again, I don't want her getting like too close to the top, right? So we gotta combo it. Combo. Trying to decide where I want to. We're making her tall. We're gonna make her like 6 feet or some shit. That's okay. She's like a goddess after all. I just envision them being not small, unless it's like Puck or something. Smudge tool, friendly neighborhood smudge tool, fixes almost everything. There we go. Now she's feeling better. Weird. How long we've been up? 2 hours? Okay. My guess is I might call it kind of an early stream tonight. Only because I do have some things I need to get done before I go to sleep, and I've been up since 6:30. I don't know why. It's so weird. With daylight savings, I am now getting up earlier. Even though we technically lost an hour. I just started waking up like an hour earlier than I was before. It should be the other way around. And I don't understand. I'm okay with it. I've always been a bit of a morning person. But I think it's also because this, regardless, like the sun is rising earlier, and I have my blinds open so that I actually get morning sun coming into the bedroom. So that always helps me wake up regardless. That, and this week Denna's been facing off with skunks and raccoons outside the window, so. Not really, they ignore her, but she sits there and bats at the window. I don't know what she thinks she's gonna do with something that size, but she clearly wants it out of her patio. Okay, I want her to feel a bit more severe. Oh, right on. What was the book series he mentioned? I think I saved it somewhere. That's what we need. We need that. Definition. Seven Water series. I don't know if I saved it, so I'm going to write it down. Write that down. Seven Water series. Juliette Merillier. Juliette Merillier. Word. That's cool. Do you know what genre they are? Does she fall under like young adult or adult fiction? Not like, adult fiction, but you know what I mean. It's always tough for me these days reading young adult stuff just because part of me feels like they put them in certain situations where things would go a certain way, but they can't because it's a young adult book. And so it starts to feel kind of forced for me sometimes. That's the hard part with going back and reading like the earlier Sarah Moss stuff, right? The Throne of Glass series. Even though I like the characters and you can see where she was going and what she was building toward, right? Because it's kind of the same, in many ways, the same stories and same themes as she plays with in her Court of Thorns and Roses books and the Crescent City book. But she just got more and more mature with her audience as she went. It's interesting because if you look into like mythology from India, they say that at the time of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, that the people were like 7 feet tall, and it's interesting because if you go to some of the like ancient temples and stuff, some of the steps are, I'm 6'1", and some of those steps are tall for me, and Indians are not tall. Like they are not known to be tall. Average height for women in India is like 5'2", and average height for men I think is 5'7" or something like that. And so it's interesting how when you get into some of those mythologies, they all kind of agree on certain things, and one of those things tends to be that back at some point, people were very tall. Okay, one arm feels straighter than the other, which I don't think we want. That's cool. I like when they do that, especially when they. I don't know why I've always been really into like the folklore around, ancient Britain, um, and Ireland, right? I mean, Sarah Moss pulls a lot from that stuff too. A lot of the themes and stories and the idea of the different seasonal courts of the Fae and all that stuff, I know is very heavily rooted, in those in that folklore. Um, I don't know if anyone ever read Stephen Lawhead's Robin Hood books. It was Hood, Tuck, and Scarlet, I think, were the three books. Um, oh, that's cool. That's awesome. But I loved those books because it was like he he basically took that idea of Robin Hood and looked at like, well, okay, the era that they usually place Robin Hood in, right, the time of the Crusades and stuff, Sherwood Forest was like super cultivated by that point, right? It was the king's forest. Like there was nowhere to really hide. So he kind of looked at it and said, if if this is based on anything that really happened, it really would have had to have taken place at this time. I think he was saying like, I forget what it was, late 1100s, I think. And it would have had to been rooted in Wales, which makes sense because the Welsh invented the longbow, right? They were like, when the Saxons basically were able to conquer Britain in like half a decade or something, and yet it took them like 200 years to conquer Wales, and it was mostly just because Wales decided to give up. It wasn't that they really conquered them, they were just tired of fighting. So they were like, fine, okay. And a lot of that was because of their deadliness with the longbow. It's ridiculous when you look at what those guys were able to do. They could sit at a tree line and heavy cavalry couldn't do shit. you know, with their longbows, they could hit a target literally at 100 yards. They had like bows that were some ridiculous, like 120-pound pole or some shit. I'm like, Jesus, that's ridiculous. Mine's a 35-pound pole, not a longbow, it's a recurve, but 35-pound pole, but because of my draw length, it ends up being about 40 pounds. And do that for an hour, and you're feeling it. I can't imagine the power those guys had to pull a longbow like that. It's a different type of draw, also, I guess, so they're using more of their body weight to pull the bow, but still. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll have to check it out because I think the only historic fantasy that I sort of dabbled in was some of the stuff that George Martin had done, but I wasn't that into it, and frankly, like, I think he's a great world builder and like story builder, but his writing is not that good. Like he's really not a good writer. Um, I mean, anyone that's read the Game of Thrones books, by the time you get to book 5, it's just starting to read like a creative writing class. And it's kind of unfortunate. Sorry, George. Maybe if you released more than like one book every 12 years, I would think differently, but I don't. When you have that long to work on a book and it ends up reading like a junior college, you know, writing class that you take that starts at like 6 p.m., right? it's a silly class, but you stick with it because there's that one super cute girl in there. Or so I've heard. Oh, Katie Harper. She looked like a little Marilyn Monroe. Right on, Shadowwalk. Do you shoot? Or do you arch, as I'm a fan of saying? My girlfriend does too, which is cool. She does it a lot more often than I do. I rarely go. I have not been in a while. I'd like to go again soon. I feel like I'm gonna want. I'm definitely gonna need to finesse her proportions a little bit. There's some things. Let's bring those shoulders down a little. Elongate her neck. Again, otherworldliness. And I feel like I'm gonna want, I don't know what, jewelry or something. I just feel like she's gonna need, because why not? Right? Just because we can. Little asymmetry here. We'll get some stuff going on. It'll be fun. Oh, right on. Yeah, there's actually an archery range literally like 3 minutes from where I live, and it's open, to the public, as long as they're not doing classes, which are generally like Saturday and Sunday mornings, I think, is when they do the classes there. But as long as there's no class going on, you can go and arch away, which is rad because they maintain the hay bales and all that stuff. You just have to bring your own target, right, to pin up on the bales. So it's cool. It's fun. Yeah, and I think like if you're in the city, at least here, like even if you have a backyard, I think there's still laws around doing archery, just because the risk of it going over the fence or something. So I think like even if you have the space, like you're not necessarily allowed to do it. Granted, I would probably just make sure it was set up in a way that I wasn't gonna, because I'm a pretty good shot. I usually only miss the bale if I'm getting clever and shooting from a long distance. I have not. I have not been axe throwing. I mean, I've thrown hatchets, but not like I didn't go to an axe throwing place. It was just, I grew up on a farm, so at some point you're gonna throw axes. Though they aren't throwing axes, so they don't hold up that well if you miss. Growing up on a farm, if it had a blade, you probably tried throwing it. I'm amazed we all came out with our appendages intact. Well, we weren't throwing them at each other, to be fair. Also, I don't really want her to have like super perfectly manicured eyebrows. I mean, I don't know. She's a goddess of some kind, I suppose, so maybe she could. I imagine she could snap her fingers and her eyebrows could look however she wants them to. And if mythology taught us anything, it's that goddesses liked to be beautiful. Whatever that meant at the time. I feel like I want to get more of that tilt to her eyes. It's like almost alien looking. It's really cool. Oh, nice. That's convenient. Okay. Just want to see, make sure I still like feel good about this as a concept, and I think I do. I'm definitely gonna think of more stuff. I just have to be careful about. I'm fine as long as I don't allude to any kind of breeze, right? Ah, thank you, Shadowhawk. Ow. Oh, feeling those push-ups. Push-ups and shadowboxing. So as long as I don't allude to any kind of breeze, I can get away with putting stuff in there that I don't have to animate, right? Like, I think it would be fun, and I do this. I have recurring themes, right? I don't mind it. But like, I don't know, I love like tying things up in the trees and little things, getting some fine like silk threads and stuff and little things hanging, and I can never resist putting like little like animal skulls and stuff hanging just to get that like awesome paganness going, right? Getting little who knows what bones and so like little animal skulls tied up, ritual stuff, Yeah, I didn't. I started doing it at one point, and then I just couldn't. I couldn't stop myself. I just keep doing it, but I don't mind because I like that it almost starts to tie some of the different things that I've done together in some way. Like almost like it's all part of some bigger world, which is a really fun thought to play with. And since I don't really have time these days, or right now, I should say, I don't have that much time to get writing done. So I'm using the art as ways to kind of like jot down my ideas and still build these worlds that I can refer back to, because there's a much better chance of me referring back to my art than there is of me referring back to some notebook that's stowed away in some closet someplace. Which is also why I started jotting notes down on the computer, so that I actually have one document that's just of like story ideas, So I only have to go to one place, and I don't have to go all over to try and find shit. Yeah, I dig it. I think I'm gonna call it for tonight because I do have to get some stuff done and try and get to bed at a decent hour. Let's see. Ooh, I bet we could raid Autumn. He's always raiding us. Not always, but often. Let's raid Autumn. You'll get there, Shadowwalk. It's all mileage. You get there at some point. I didn't used to have a style, and then it just kind of crept up on me. We're gonna raid Autumn. Looks like he painted a drow and stuff. I'm gonna call it for tonight. Stick around for the raid, my friends. We'll raid our dear friend Autumn. Say hi, and then you can bounce if you want. But let's raid in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for joining. I'll see y'all Thursday.